Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have an upload that is just Dogman encounters. Now, as of late, I've been mixing them up with a little bit of reptilian, a little bit of Sasquatch, a little bit of what is it? And tonight, just all Dogman. So, before we get into this, a couple links. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch store to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Those links are in the description below. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook version, written by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny, is available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. The links to those are in the description as well. Now, I've taken enough of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? Today's first part of the upload. I live deep in the hills, southeastern Kentucky. We basically grew up in the mountains here, learning what is safe and what is not. There are many stories here which I believe to be true, and the Dogman is just one of them. I grew up hearing the older generation talking about things being in these mountains that did not belong here. I recall many sightings of mountain lions, first-hand experiences. One where a horse was mauled after the rider was bucked off. There were a few stories of wild boar and bears that weighed 500-plus pounds, so needless to say, we were all taught to be aware and to be safe from a very young age. I grew up doing a lot of hunting and fishing from around 12 years up. I've seen and heard things I simply will never be able to explain, but it was not until my teenage years that I began hearing stories of something called Dogman. I was around 16 when I first heard of an incredible event from two very trustworthy people. They had come face to face with what they described as a terrifying beast that could have run them down and killed them, had it chose to. They had observed it for an extended amount of time, diving into a pond and catching fish on a sunny day. The description sent chills down my spine. He stood around 6.5 feet tall, they said, with a muscular but slender build. He had the face of a dog, almost exactly the same, but the body of a man. The legs were different. They were not straight, but had a noticeable bend to the knees. His hair was medium blackish brown and short to medium length. You could clearly see its canine teeth as he would tilt his head back and sniff the air for a few minutes. I'm pretty sure he smelled us. He seemed to know we were there, but seemed more scared and nervous of being watched and soon headed back into the thick underbrush. Once I looked online, I realized maybe we should not be so fast to dismiss these stories. There are thousands of sightings all over the United States of these creatures, and many that are first-hand. Many of them are very credible witnesses. This one I found matches almost exactly. It started growling and started sniffing the air. Its snout went up and turned its head slightly as it was sniffing. It then took a few steps forward. This one was hunting deer, and there were many other stories out there that matched the one I heard. These sightings are now all over the United States and coming daily. So, what are we seeing? Many say it's the basis for the story of the werewolf, which I really can't disagree with them. It is clear people are seeing something. Even if we could disprove half of these, in doing so, we would also prove that the other half is something that has, for the most part, remained hidden in nature for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. So next time you decide to take a walk near the deep, dark mountains here in southeast Kentucky, be aware, because those footsteps or sounds of something rustling in the woods may not be a playful squirrel or a raccoon. It could very well be the Dogman, staying just out of eyesight, watching you. Today's second part of the upload. Some of my internet friends make jokes at my expense because I live in Arkansas. Do you even have electricity? Do you find your cousins attractive? What we do have is a shitload of trees and mountains. You leave the greater Little Rock area and drive through 30 minutes of trees and hit a town. Another 30 minutes and you hit another town. Another 30 minutes. Well, you see where this is going. You know that saying that the universe is 99% empty space? That's basically the state, but it being 99% woods. I lived on the edge of one of these huge expanse of woods. I spent a lot of time in these woods with my friends. We'd find the normal dead animal carcass, weird fire circles set up by local rednecks or meth heads, and other basic in-the-woods stuff. So one night I was going through some normal teenage shit, and I was sitting on the roof, obviously looking at stars. It was a mostly full moon that I can see through the trees, and it's really chill up here. Nice early autumn breeze, and I'm just chilling. My mom and little sister were sitting outside in the hot tub, right under the edge of the roof in front of me. I hear them go in, and I'm still relaxing. You know the feeling you get when you know someone's looking at you? It's different from that regular spooky vibe you'll get. It's something in your brain that doesn't care about reason or reality TV. He hits a woman over the head and takes her back to the cave while you feast on the freshly killed bear he killed with his own hands, part of your brain. All of a sudden, my relaxation is gone. I immediately know something is not okay. I know something is staring at me, and it would like nothing better to eat my scrawny ass. Just for reference, there's the edge of the roof, about another 6 feet of deck, and then 20 feet of yard until our 6 feet privacy fence. We set up the privacy fence in front of this shitty chain link fence that was there before we moved. Because, meth heads. And then behind the fence is a ton of shitty bushes and shrubs. And then right beyond that is trees. I start to scan the fence and I notice something directly in front of where I was. Keep in mind that my mom and little sister would have been between me and it. So I notice this outline. All I see is this black of the shrubs and trees, and then right above the privacy fence is what looks like this brown-colored outline of a head and shoulders. My first thought was, what the hell is someone standing on the chain-link fence looking over? That thing rattles like a shit ton when I climb on it, so it can't be that. Apparently, my feet had gotten under me, and I started moving my ass toward the edge of the roof without consulting my brain. I get to the edge of the roof and just looking at this outline when I hear a scream from a horror movie monster. Imagine if you shoved a bear, a cougar, and one of those screech owls into a mosh pit and recorded the noise, then added some heavy distortion to it. I remember instantly turning and running to the opposite side of the roof. Parkour off that bitch, ran inside crying to my mom. So I was back over their last summer house helping my stepdad do some renovations, and brought this story up. I showed him where I saw it, and I even climbed up on the roof to direct him at how tall it was. Turns out that the thing was almost 8 feet tall and had crazy broad shoulders, like 3 and some feet wide. Stepdad did the normal thing, like, oh, it's nothing. Just go look up the sounds one of these animals make and get back with me. Bear, nope. Cougar, nope. Fox, nope. Owls, you get the trend. I couldn't find a single animal that it sounded like. I have some more stories about this same creature. My first encounter happened when I was 16 years old, and my most recent encounters happened 2.5 years ago, and about 2 years ago. I'm now 22. I'm going to tell you the second and third encounter along with a story of my mom and my stepdad had. My second encounter. Mom and stepdad started renting this place out after I started college and got another house. Renter moved out, so they moved back in because they finished fixing up the newer house and were busy trying to sell it. They asked me if I wanted to make $50 plus a tank of gas to babysit my little sister. She was 10ish at the time, until they got back from their date night. I was a little dubious because fuck this house, man. Not only is there a goddamn Bigfoot or some huge animal in the woods behind it, but there's also a lot of weird shit that happens inside any house my mom has lived in. So I said yes to babysitting until like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I was going to drive back to uni. They were going to have a few drinks, dinner, and go dancing. I didn't want to sleep in their bed because they've had sex in it. So I opted for the couch. I assumed they hadn't had sex on that. I'm just hanging out with my little sister. I make her some food and we talk about what she's been doing. She asks me how school is going, just the normal brother-sister bonding time. I let her stay up until like 11 because I'm awesome like that, and I settle down on the couch, just sitting there browsing and listening to the Dresden Files on audiobook while petting the dog. Their dog lays down next to the couch, so I just let my arm hang off and stay on her head. I'm lying there facing away from the backyard, and I start to get that something's looking at me feeling again. All of a sudden, their dog lifts up her head and looks behind me. Now, the back of the house is almost entirely windows, and I usually kept all the curtains closed at night. Well, my dumbass did not close the curtains. She starts to growl, and really quick I close the blinds and check the rest of the house for open blinds. The only ones were in my parents' room, and felt going in there and closing them. There's 5 in their room, and that's not enough cover for me. Every so often, she'll look up at the closed blinds and quietly growl, but I shush her. It gets to be around 12:30, and I eventually call my mom. She answers and says, "What's up?" At this point, my mom, little sister, and stepdad have been making fun of me for seeing Bigfoot for 4 years. I let her know what's up and ask her, "Where's the gun?" She says there's a .45 in her nightstand and one in my stepdad's. So I man up, walk in, and grab her gun and run my ass back to the couch. I always feel safer when I'm able to America any threat. Nothing else really happens. I check on my sister from time to time, and the dog growls at the window a few more times. Parents get back, I tell them what's up, hug them quickly, get my money, and haul ass back to the university. Now, my third encounter. Fast forward a few months at the same house. I was there just having dinner with my family. The dog starts to give us signs that she needs to go out, so I take her out back. There's still light out, so I feel safe. We walk out the glass double doors in my parents' bedroom onto the deck, and she runs barreling off the deck and does her business. Then out of nowhere, I see her look at the far left corner of a privacy fence and raise her hackles. I call her over to me, and she's still growling and low to the ground like she's ready to fight. I'm listening my ass off, and I slowly start hearing footsteps. Anyone that spends time in the woods in the fall knows the sounds of leaves crunching underfoot. You can tell if it's a small animal or a person depending on how loud and long the crunching lasts because of the surface area. This sounded like whatever was out there was slowly cutting a few heads of lettuce with a dull knife. So I'm listening, and the steps are coming from probably 30 yards behind the fence through the bushes. I've heard lots of meth head walk around back there, so I'm pretty sure I can gauge the distance. The dog lets out a bark, and the footsteps stop. I whisper no to her, and she shuts up. Eventually, the footsteps turn and walk at an angle away from the fence, and I grab her, and we go back inside. Once I get my parents alone, I let them know what happened. I get more jokes about Bigfoot or what have you. Now on to my parents' encounter. Their bedroom is at the back of the house and has 2 windows and a set of glass double doors with a door at the foot of the bed that leads to a sunroom with another 3 windows. The house is on a slight decline, so by the time you get to the backyard, the floor of the house is about 4 feet above the ground. Their bed is also one of those really tall ones. The top of the bed is probably about 3 feet off the floor. And the headboard is one of those tall, gaudy metal ones. It's like 6 feet tall. It was a bitch getting into the house. Anyway, they're laying in bed one night talking, and they heard this huge bang behind and at the top of their headboard. Stepdad is military, so he grabs a shotgun from the closet, his flashlight from the side of the bed, and runs outside with the dog. Apparently, she doesn't smell anything and isn't barking anymore, so he walks the perimeter to see if she can pick up a scent, but doesn't. Now, whatever hit the house had to be really tall, so stand on your tippy toes, reach your arms up as far as you can go, and try to exert a large amount of force with your hand. Now try to shove something at head or shoulder level. It's a lot easier. They still make fun of me for seeing Bigfoot or something, but it's different somehow. And when my stepdad had to go to SEER training, they all warned him very seriously about Bigfoot and other monsters in the woods. I don't know if it's a joke, but you can find a lot of stories of weird things experienced by military personnel, since they go in the woods for training so often. Today's third part of the upload. I was sitting in the woods on a tree trunk on my property in Cadillac, Michigan. It was about 9 a.m. and the date was September of 2014. I heard a twig snap. I looked behind me and I saw a creature. This creature was unlike anything I had ever seen. My heart was pounding and I started to sweat when I saw it. The creature was orange, like a common fox are up here, but it stood easily 7 feet high, with the eyes the color of a gold coin. The creature had human hands, but covered in orange fur, and had claws, but also had hooves on its legs that I could hear when it ran. I had only a few seconds to see it before it ran away, hearing the distance of the hooves hitting the ground and fading away. That same day, I tried to get my neighbor's hunting cam, but they said there was no video card in it. But I hope someone else sees this creature. Today's fourth part of the upload. In a small rural Tennessee town, kids played outside until there was no light to see. And even then they found ways to stay out until brought inside by the threat of punishment. I was no exception. On Saturday evening, when I was 2 months into turning 12, as I was coming inside from playing, I was stopped in my tracks by a strange sound. A mix of yipping growling into a barking growl, coming from an easy 30 or so yards. I was intrigued. I stood on the front porch looking into the tree line their house faced, trying to find the source of this sound. I expected a dog to emerge, as people were always dumping their dogs in the country, and it was rare these animals ever found homes. Most just roamed the woods. Sitting down on the porch steps, I waited for what I thought would be one of these dogs, but nothing. After a solid 10 minutes and a loss of more of dwindling light, I stood to go inside. The sound came again, this time deeper and much more guttural. It chilled me. This sound, looking out into the trees, I saw a very tall figure move between the trees. It was taller than the fence outlining the trees, and those were a good 4 to 5 feet. I took a hold of the door. The sound came again, and I felt it go through me. It was difficult to explain. I felt as I was rooted to my spot. I opened the door and moved a step inside. My eyes were locked on the spot where this thing moved toward. I saw a slice of what looked like a shadow coming to life, and put what I thought to be a hand on the fence. I didn't wait anymore. I stepped inside the house and closed the door after myself. I've never spoken of this to another person before now. Although I never doubted what I saw, I never had a name for it. I saw no real features other than a vague outline, but what prompted me to share this were the details of those outlines. It had arms of impossible length, 2 ears on the side of its head that were long and slender. Its upper torso was broad along the shoulders and tapered down. I couldn't see the legs for the fence, nor its feet. I had never heard the term Dogman until a month or so ago. I've been 12 for several years now, but I know that's what I saw in that tree line. Today's final encounter. You can take this with a grain of salt, as I was 11, almost 12 at the time, but I was not a kid to make shit up. I mean, before this, I don't think I ever had a paranormal experience. And after it, I've only had a few minor things happen that I'm skeptical over. I've lived in Illinois my whole life. From 0 to 4, I lived in Chicago suburb. At the age of 4, we moved to the Boonies, a very small rural farm town, way closer to Rockford than Chicago. So most of my life, I've really lived near corn and forests. There's a small river near my house, big enough to not be a creek, but still pretty small. The area surrounding it is relatively dense forest. Nearby is a small forest preserve, but the area of forest we had gone to that day was way denser than the forest preserve. I was riding bikes with my best friend at the time, who still remembers this. Basically, we rode to a part of forest we had never been to before and started walking in. There were no paths. We didn't even get deep into the forest until I heard a crack of a thick stick. Now I'm super outdoorsy because of where I live. I used to spend hours during the summer exploring the rural areas with my younger brother. And this was years ago when kids kind of just played outside with no repercussions. My friend whom I was with was more of a suburban kid. When the stick cracked, I was the one to start looking around while my friend heard it, but kept looking at her feet. So I looked up for a second and saw something that scared the living shit out of me. A massive black wolf dog thing leapt from behind a tree to another. I even remember it was moving west to east in the forest, from my right to my left. It looked like a pure shadow. I didn't see hair or eyes or fur, but it was like it was almost blacker than a shadow. Probably couldn't have been more than 20 to 25 feet away. It disappeared when finally it was behind the tree to the east. I booked it. My friend ran after me after we discussed. Friend never saw the actual dog thing, but we talked about the feeling. We both felt as if we were in some sort of dream state. It was a total Oz effect. Things got unnaturally quiet, and I felt like I was in a trance, as did my friend. I almost felt my eyes growing heavy during the walk into the forest, and unlike the regular Oz effect, it sort of felt peaceful. But maybe it's because I was a naive kid and didn't recognize the danger. We eventually returned home and told my mom, who kind of just brushed us off, of course, but who did comfort me because I was shaking hard. Next day, I was on a bike ride with my brother near the woods, and as we were leaving, we heard the most maniacal laugh. It sounded like a devil. I can't really even describe it except that it was like something out of a horror movie. My brother was in front of me and turned around and gave me an extremely freaked look, so he heard it as well. We pedaled our ass off out of there as fast as possible, and again told my mom, who kind of shrugged. Now, let me tell you, I slept with the lights on for probably 3 months, and during that time I was constantly on edge and did not sleep well. I just have so many questions. The forest was, a real forest, but it was still close to some houses. Why would a Dogman type thing be here? There are also no wolves here whatsoever, and it was far too big to be a coyote, much less a pitch-black shadow coyote. How did it disappear as well? And I'm not positive the laugh was related. I guess it could have been some older kids that were just messing around with us. I may have been, but it sounded just wrong, and we didn't hear or see anything else around. After I saw it, I was terrified. I mean, I was 11 using my dad's dial-up internet looking up things I saw. I was terrified. It was an omen of death or something, but thankfully I'm alive 13 years later. Anyway, what do you guys think? Wow. Oh, wow. They were some terrifying encounters. Just friggin' creepy. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed those encounters as much as I enjoyed sharing them with you. I have a subscriber who reached out to me a couple days ago. He lives in Texas. I'm not going to share where or what his name is, but he really has an interesting encounter, and I'm hoping to get him on to share it as well. Also, I'm hoping to get Kirk Stokes on. He's had a couple of experiences with Dogman, I believe Sasquatch. Donald Coleman Jr. put me in contact with him. I've been trying to get him on for about a year, and hopefully we'll get him on soon. So, I don't know. It's still pretty light out in upstate New York, being almost 6 o'clock today. It's so nice, man. Spring is almost here, then summer, then fall, then winter again. Anyway, let's just look ahead for summer, huh? Have a great night, guys, and thanks. Oh, yeah. We might have the Wayback Machine tonight. I'm not really sure yet. See ya!